Hello and welcome. We are the Mage Sisters. I'm Alicia Love,
I'm Stella Ray.
and we're bringing you the themes for this upcoming Pisces full moon eclipse. There's so much information. We had to make slides to show you all of it. So we're excited to dive in and share with you the details of what we felt were the energetic energies for this full moon. We're going to talk about the Virgo feminine and reclaiming the female sovereignty. We're going to talk about healing the unbalanced power dynamics because we've got Venus in Libra. And we're going to go beyond this Pisces shadow energy and feel into the ending of this Piscean age. We've got, Pluto moving into Aquarius, but there's so many moving parts. We're going to bring it all together for you today.
Yes, we are. Well, we'll start with pointing out that the full moon that we have is obviously moon in Pisces, but our Virgo sun is the energy that we are reclaiming, and we are reclaiming our female sovereignty, and not as the Virgo virgin energy that unfortunately Virgo has been pigeonholed into, but as this much more expansive version of Virgo, and the word virgin itself, which originally meant whole unto herself. So love that so much more, right?
I
And
know it's really evolving the way we're talking about astrology and these archetypes is like not the virgin that you thought she was.
that is right.
Yeah.
And the sun is a couple degrees from Inanna. And we bring Inanna in because we focus a lot on Inanna as the guiding myth associated with the Venus cycle. And we do a lot of work with the Venus cycle. So we're bringing in Inanna, who is right there, right now in Virgo with the sun, helping us to remember, because Inanna was a priestess. She was a high priestess in Sumeria who really embodied this idea of female, feminine sovereignty.
Yes. And that's Inanna as an asteroid. So we've included a lot of the asteroids because they're goddesses in the pantheon, and there's so many of them. We have to remember and bring this feminine consciousness in. So the moon being eclipsed, and we'll talk a little bit about what happens with that. We'll show you a slide for the energy of why we get eclipses, but the full moon is going to be in Pisces, opposite the Virgo sun. And the Pisces energy brings us into a divine consciousness. And we're talking about the feminine rising and the mystical connections and this yearning we have for the divine. So we're bringing it in balance as equal partner. And the two twin fish of the Piscean age, bringing back that balance that we really lost for the last 5,000 years or more. And Neptune is right there with the full moon. And we've got Saturn in Pisces as well. So there's a lot of lessons around the maturity of that spiritual perspective and holding the consciousness and mastery level, these later degrees. And we'll talk about all these different later degrees, outer planets that are really bringing completion and mastery level to each of these elements we're talking about.
Mm.
Got the Saturn square Jupiter energy in there too.
Yes, right. I mean, amplifying and charging that energy up, and maybe it's coming through to meet us as a challenging event, a challenging relationship event, something that's calling on us to access that Pisces sensitivity and compassion on one hand, and then the very boundaried Virgo priestess energy of discernment on the other. So much.
I think there
So
will
much.
be some challenges brought up with this full moon energy. People are going to be brought to the edge of what is comfortable, and it's going to come through relationship energy around the people that we're close with.
Yes, 100%. So yeah, before we get into that relationship and the nodal axis, there is working with in a full moon the energy of the shadow Pisces, or to be aware of it, especially because Neptune is sextile with Pluto in that late degree. So it's highlighting that tension and that influence of the Pluto Neptune sextile, which is ongoing. They have been they move very slowly, these outer planets. So we've been working with that sextile for, I don't know, 100 years, maybe more. And that will continue even as they change signs. As Neptune moves into Aries and Pluto moves into Aquarius, they'll still be in this sextile. But so illuminating some of that shadow Pisces as the escapism and addiction, numbness, emotional overwhelm, victimization, and the fogginess, and all of this fantasy and illusion that has come along with some of the distorted religious and spiritual mythos of the last 5,000 years, which has distorted the feminine expression of the divine. So we're, if we think of us being at a time where we're really releasing and mastering at the same time those lessons, that's pretty big. That's a pretty big
Yes.
energy. So
Yeah,
so
these are the things to look out for, right? These are like where you might feel the challenge of the shadow helping you to illuminate with the full moon, right? Bring your next level of light and bright awareness and clarity to these things.
yeah, something that came through to me as I was putting that slide together is where we might be tempted to extend a blanket of forgiveness and blind acceptance, which we've been conditioned to do, to what actually needs to be brought into the light as that shadow dimension. And sometimes we have to do that uncomfortable looking. Hey, eclipse season. Tell us what we need to know about what the heck an eclipse is
Right.
actually
Why do
about.
we even have eclipses? And the the reason we have eclipses is because of the orbit of the sun and the orbit of the moon from the perspective of Earth. Where their elliptic orbits cross is what we call the north node, and opposite it is the south node. And when we have currently north node in Aries and south node in Libra, most of our eclipses are going to be in Aries and Libra because they're going to come into that sign. But being that we're in these late degrees and we have all of this energy around what's coming to completion, we're getting some foreshadowing for what is going to be our next north node in Pisces, which will be south node in Virgo, which is what the axis is we've got this eclipse happening at right now. And that North Node season is almost 19 months. It mirrors the Venus cycle, and they start around the same time. So in March of next year, when we're in Pisces season, is when we will start having the regular Pisces and Virgo eclipses. But we're getting a little bit of that now to see what's coming and see what we're completing, because it's going to be a huge shift. It's been almost 20 years of living in this whole nodal cycle from, it goes backwards. We're in Aries and it's going to back up into Pisces, and it brings us these energies to eclipse us, to help to get clarity, to help to see where the shadow lies within these things. And we're getting a chance to feel into the depth of this Pisces. And I think you brought it up that we've got the Piscean age as ending. We've got the Aquarius age coming. And what is it that we are wrapping up and completing? That's the question.
Yes, that's a big question. And how that intersects with this Libra Aries axis
That we're
with
currently in.
that we're currently in, and at these last moments of releasing. So right now we're looking at shadow Libra
Mhm.
and addressing what dynamics, what codependencies, what distortions around relationship that we are surrendering. So it's a relationship review. What we find so fascinating in this chart is that if you'll see where the South Node is in Libra, there at 6 degrees, there's an asteroid Eva, which stands for Eve, and also Black Moon Lilith, which are flanking on opposite sides of the South Node. So when we're talking about these big themes of entering into this new age and releasing this big Piscean age, we have a little hints about some of the work that we need to do in our interpersonal relationships as male and female. Where have we been doormats? Bringing in that Eve energy, where have we felt that we needed to be silent and submissive within an unequal relationship dynamic? And then on the other side, where have we not been willing to assert ourselves? Black Moon Lilith, these deeper sort of primal feminine instincts, and not to call out unfair or unbalanced, even toxic balance of power between male and female. So there's a lot of information on Libra shadow as that, polite, always putting others first and really compromising ourselves by giving ourselves, going too far into the domain of the other, making sure the other's okay, taking care of the other. So then what about the up-leveled Aries?
Yeah, that's exactly. I was like, I want to talk about Aries because that's that alignment with self that we know who we are and we assert that and communicate it and let people know. And it is uncomfortable when someone comes in full force with their Aries online and is like, hey, this is the way it is and this is what I want. And it does disrupt and create a shift because we need that. We need the sovereignty and awareness of our self in relationship so that we can be in a healthy partnership with balance and that you get to have your sovereign self and I get to have my sovereign self and we get to acknowledge what comes up for us and speak to it. And if it's anger, then you have to say, I am angry right now, not taking out anger on each other and name calling and doing all those shadow Aries things. It's like we're really calling ourselves into right alignment with who we are. And we're going to get more and more clear on this as we finish out these last few degrees of the Aries North Node. But the Leo cycle that we're in with Venus is bringing us into our knowing and the sovereign leader and heart centered. And we're just wrapping it all together because it's so important to feel and know your worth and your power and not acquiesce to all that Libra. Like, I love the way you said it too. It's just like, oh, I'm just going to be so polite and I'm going to care so much about the harmony of everyone else that I'm not going to really know what to take a stand for than myself.
Venus and Libra, because that's where Venus currently is. And, what is a healthy expression of Libra? Because we don't want to just be focusing on the shadow, although that's what we're clearing out with the South Node. But what are we ultimately aspiring to as Venus and Libra?
Yeah, Venus is pulling us towards equality and consciousness in our relationships. And she desires to know herself through those relationships. She values agreements that are not like rules, and they're not like agreements are like contracts that you can update and change. And so it depends on where the balance is and where the knowing is, and we communicate. She loves collaboration and communication and togetherness, but not in the losing of the self, right? We love and both are working with nonviolent communication as a tool, and it is such a Venus and Libra air sign communication tool. We definitely love it when people can be aware of that consciousness and communicating. It really does cultivate a peaceful, harmonious, conscious, loving way of being in partnership.
And it's a way, like you were saying earlier, to be able to express our anger in ways that is not destructive, because it's so easy to let anger become destructive, to lash out, and then to sabotage our relationships. So how do we learn that really important skill
Yeah.
of centering into that nonviolent way of speaking that truth in the context of relationship, preserving the relationship?
Okay, so we
Mm.
are reclaiming the priestess at this full moon because Neptune in Pisces there with the moon is also creating a kite, which are these really supportive sextile energies in both the earth signs of Taurus and Capricorn. We've got Pluto with Ishtar, the goddess asteroid Ishtar, which is the version of Inanna that we definitely highlight, where the imbalance between the feminine supporting the masculine from a subservient, required to be, supporting the patriarchy kind of way, which we are ending. And the Taurus, Neptune, and Magdalene is so important to talk about too, because I want you to say it too, this Pisces balance of the Magdalene and the ending of the old way. So important.
Yeah, I mean, bringing in that Uranus and Magdalene energy in the sign of Taurus, which is something that we really lost in the sense of this embodied sense of our feminine spirituality and this embodied reclamation of our capacity for pleasure in our body. And for, I think of Taurus as like the garden that we got kicked out of as women, right? It's like we were really happy to be in our garden of femininity, in touch with our sexuality and our sense of pleasure and our senses, and how that was not disconnected from our spirituality, but was this beautiful mirror of what is sacred. So bringing in the Magdalene as the spiritual partner, which was really lost and exiled in that patriarchal view of religion and Christianity. She was there at the beginning, and she was there in this very Libran, equal, conscious partnership capacity. So love that she's there with Uranus, this innovative, rake through, quantum leap energy. Like, how are we reclaiming that within our forward timeline of where we're headed, and in connection with all of this other energy?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Did we get through all this? So then with Inanna too, so we've got that Inanna, Ishtar, Magdalena energy, all in connection with this this Neptune moon. How cool is
Yes.
that?
The Neptile, I like that. The
This
Neptune.
Neptile.
Neptune's all this sextile energy. And it's
Yeah.
these outer planets that are bringing the consciousness of it all together over these longer timelines. So that's why we're relating it to, these ancient goddesses and the evolution of them, because Inanna became Ishtar, and the divine feminine of the Magdalene is really the thing that's been continuing the thread, that golden thread, that red thread. And as we weave them through, we are really reclaiming this priestess energy through the Virgo and through just standing in the wholeness of all of it.
Ah, yes, I love that. Beautiful. Yeah, let's just like condense into a couple sentences. We did talk about Ishtar being with Pluto. We talked about Ishtar being this more patriarchal version of earlier Inanna, and how we're really composting and letting that go in this last time that Pluto is moving in Capricorn. We should at least touch on the fact that at this full moon, Venus is in opposition with Chiron, highlighting that same power dynamic. I mean, it's all really telling the same story, which is so fascinating.
We love this story. This is the story we are immersing ourselves in and creating a understanding of the heroine's journey through all of this wounding that the feminine and the masculine
And
have
the
both
masculine,
had
yes.
to go through. So the opposing Chiron and Aries is the wounded masculine consciousness that's also wanting to reclaim a balance and not have to be in that way that they were. I mean, I talk to so many conscious men that are bringing in the feminine balance and looking at the shadow masculine, and we get
Yeah.
to break free of all of that if we come into this equality of conscious partnership.
Yes. Feminine Eros is breaking free, another asteroid with Venus. And then speaking of the masculine, one last echo of the notes here, Mars, the traditional sign of the masculine, is in Cancer. So it's like this other beautiful indicator of the masculine stepping in to figure out how to be in this energy of great mother, great feminine, and how we do that inside of ourselves to make space for our emotional vulnerabilities and our deep emotional inner child self. And opposing that is Ceres, which is Demeter, the great mother goddess herself in Capricorn. So both of those in signs that are sort of have been considered opposite of their nature, like Capricorn has been associated with patriarchal dominator sort of paradigm, but now we're seeing it as this growth paradigm. Yes, still maybe hierarchical as Capricorn is, but how are we taking care of children and people that are in need of our care? How are we organizing
Yeah, it
society, culture to take care of others that need it? So
brings in that wisdom of the elders. It maybe doesn't have to only be masculine or like the grandfather, grandmother. We've got that in Capricorn. And then to have Mars in Cancer to bring the masculine, feminine together in the sacred marriage, which we talk about a lot. It's really beautiful. And this chart is just so magical. It's so wonderful to get to do this with you.
so
Thank
much
you,
fun. This
everyone
was
that watched
great.
us. Yes, we had so much fun. And I know it was a lot of information, but the slides can help. You can go back and look at them. You can pause there to read. And we've got some really amazing resources on our website as well that are free to you to sign up for our newsletter and download the information for the transits that you get when you are in your mage power years of when you turn 40, you get that Venus return that just brings a whole new threshold of experience. And we've got a great outline for you for all of these transits that you get to experience from 40 to 56. You get those Venus returns, and again at 48, and all the other outer planet oppositions and squares and things. So please go to our website and check us out. And we will make another video soon because we've got a lot coming up and we love to share it with you.
Yes, thank you. So much fun to be with you always in conversation and sharing what we're so passionate about.
Have a wonderful and blessed full moon.